The banquet hall smelled of expensive lilies and roasted chicken, a scent that usually made me hungry, but tonight it only made me nauseous. I stood near the head table, clutching the microphone with a hand that was sweating profusely. I had spent weeks writing this maid of honor speech. It was kind, sentimental, and completely undeserved, but I wanted to do the right thing for my sister, Lorelei. I took a deep, shaky breath, preparing to read the first line from my index cards. Suddenly, a hand adorned with a massive diamond ring clamped over mine. Before I could process what was happening, Lorelei yanked the microphone away from my grip. The sound system let out a high-pitched squeal that made the guests cover their ears. "You've talked enough, Elowen," Lorelei announced, her voice booming through the speakers. She laughed, but it wasn't a warm sound. It was sharp and cold, like ice cracking. "Let me do the honors. We all know you just bore us to tears anyway." I stood there, empty-handed and stunned, my mouth slightly open. The room went quiet, save for the nervous clinking of silverware. My sister adjusted the microphone stand, towering over me in her lace gown, looking like a queen preparing to execute a peasant. "My name is Elowen, and my sister just turned my wedding toast into my public humiliation," I thought, feeling the blood drain from my face. The guests laughed awkwardly, unsure if this was a skit. I looked at Ansel, her fiancé. He wasn't laughing. He was frowning, looking between us with total confusion. Lorelei cleared her throat, soaking in the attention like a flower soaking in sunlight. She didn't look at me. She looked at the crowd, her eyes gleaming with malice. "Let's be honest, everyone," she began, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. "Elowen is the family charity case. We all know it, don't we?" My heart stopped. A murmur went through the room. This wasn't playful teasing anymore. This was an attack. Lorelei continued, packing slightly. "She still lives in that tiny, sad shoebox apartment downtown. I think the rats actually pay the rent for her." A few people in the back gasped. My face burned so hot I thought my skin might melt. I could feel the eyes of our relatives, our friends, and Ansel's wealthy family boring into me. Some looked pitying, others looked entertained, but most just looked uncomfortable. I wanted to disappear into the floorboards. I forced a smile, a painful, tight grimace, trying to hold back the tears stinging my eyes. "But hey," Lorelei said, gesturing to herself. "At least I found a man before 30. Poor Elowen can't even keep a cactus alive, let alone a relationship." The insult cut deep. It was a direct hit to my insecurities, and she knew it. She ended her speech with a cruel smirk, raising her glass high. "To me, and I suppose to Ansel." The room hesitated. The applause that followed was scattered and weak, rippling through the hall like a slow, painful wave. Most people were looking down at their plates, pretending to cut their chicken. Lorelei beamed, completely unbothered by the heavy atmosphere she had created. She took a sip of water, not wine, and smirked at me. Something inside my chest snapped. It was a physical sensation, like a rubber band breaking after being stretched too far. My pulse began to pound in my ears, a rhythmic, deafening drumbeat. The sadness that had paralyzed me a moment ago vanished, replaced by a cold, hard anger. I reached out and grabbed my champagne glass from the table. My hand was steady now. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped loudly against the wooden floor, a harsh sound that cut through the murmur of conversation. Everyone stopped eating. The room went silent again, waiting. They expected me to run away crying. They expected Elowen the doormat to fold. I walked toward the microphone. Lorelei looked at me, her eyebrows raised in a challenge. She thought she had one. I took the mic from the stand. "You want honesty, Lorelei?" I asked, my voice echoing clearly through the hall. "You want to roast people? Okay, let's talk about secrets." Lorelei's smile froze instantly. A flicker of genuine fear passed behind her eyes. I didn't look at the guests. I didn't look at my parents. I turned my body and looked directly at the groom, Ansel. He was sitting there, his tie slightly crooked, looking at me with wide, worried eyes. "Ansel," I said, my voice steady and loud, "maybe you should ask your glowing bride why she's been skipping the champagne all night." Ansel blinked. He looked at Lorelei's glass, which was filled with water. Lorelei stepped forward, her face losing its color. "Elowen, stop," she hissed, but she was off mic. I ignored her. And maybe, I continued, leaning closer to the microphone, you should ask her why she's been sneaking off to wedding planning meetings that were actually doctor appointments across town. A collective gasp swept through the room. It was a sharp, sucking sound of 300 people holding their breath. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear a pin drop. Lorelei dropped her bouquet instead. The heavy arrangement of white roses hit the floor with a wet thud. I looked her dead in the eye. She looked small now, stripped of her arrogance. She's pregnant, I finished. The words hung in the air like smoke. Ansel's mouth fell open. He looked from me to Lorelei, waiting for her to laugh, to deny it, to call me a liar. But Lorelei just stood there, clutching her stomach, her face a mask of terror. That's a lie, Lorelei screamed. Her voice cracked, shrill and desperate. The spell over the room broke instantly. The hall erupted into chaos. Chairs scraped as people stood up to get a better view. Whispers turned into shouts. Ansel stood up slowly, looking like he had been punched in the gut. Lorelei, he asked, his voice barely audible over the noise of the crowd. Is that true? Lorelei grabbed his arm, her fingernails digging into his suit jacket. She's lying. She's jealous. You know, she's always been jealous of me. She's trying to ruin our day because she's miserable. But her panic was too real. She wasn't acting like an innocent woman. She was acting like a cornered animal. Suddenly, a commotion at the family table drew everyone's attention. My mother, who had been pale since I started speaking, swayed in her seat. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. She slid off her chair and hit the floor in a dead faint. Mom, someone screamed. Bridesmaids rushed to her, fanning her with menus. The chaos was total. I placed the microphone gently back on the stand. I felt a strange sense of calm. I didn't wait to see the rest. I turned around and walked out of the double doors, leaving the ruins of the wedding behind me. I walked rapidly to the parking lot, the cool night air hitting my flushed face. I got into my car, locked the doors, and sat there in the dark. My hands were shaking so violently, I couldn't even put the key in the ignition. I took deep breaths, trying to steady my heart rate. In, out, in, out. I had just destroyed my sister's wedding. I had dropped a nuclear bomb on my family. My phone, sitting on the passenger seat, lit up. Then it buzzed. Then it lit up again. It started vibrating constantly, dancing across the seat cover. I picked it up with trembling fingers. The notifications were endless. Half of them were from relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, calling me names I can't repeat. Cruel, insane, vindictive. My Aunt Clara texted, "You are a disgrace to this family." But the other half were different. Friends who had witnessed Lorelai's bullying for years were messaging me. My best friend, Fern, sent a text that made me cry. "You finally stood up for yourself. You had to do it. She pushed you too far. I'm proud of you." I leaned my head back against the headrest, tears leaking from my eyes. Then the phone screen changed. A call was coming in. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Ansel. I stared at the ringing phone for a long time. The screen illuminated the dark interior of my car. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but I owed him this much. I slid my finger across the screen to answer. "Hello." My voice was a whisper, raspy and weak. For a moment, there was only the sound of ragged breathing on the other end. Background noise, shouting, maybe a siren, filtered through. "Eloin," Ansel said. His voice sounded broken, like a man who had just watched his house burn down. "Is it true?" I closed my eyes. I felt a pang of guilt for him. He was a pawn in Lorelai's game, and I had just smashed the board. "Ask her, Ansel," I said softly. "I can't tell you the details, but you needed to know." She's screaming that you made it up," he stammered. "But she won't look me in the eye." "You already know the answer," I said. "Just look at her face. Look at Mom's reaction." He was silent, then he hung up. The line went dead. I sat there, wondering if I should drive home or wait. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, my phone chimed with a single text message from him. She admitted it. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It was over. I drove home in a daze, the streetlights blurring into streaks of yellow. When I got to my apartment, I collapsed onto the sofa, but sleep was impossible. An hour later, my phone pinged again. It was Ansel. He was spiraling, sending me a stream of texts, needing someone to talk to who wasn't lying to him. He told me the full story. Lorelei had cracked under the pressure in the bridal suite. She had admitted to hiding the pregnancy. Her excuse was that she wanted to test his love, to see if he would accept her no matter what. It was a classic Lorelei manipulation tactic. But then, the real twist arrived. "The dates don't match up," Ansel texted. I checked the calendar. I was away on that business trip in Europe for 3 weeks during the conception window. My jaw dropped. I sat up straight. The baby wasn't his. Ansel sent a screenshot. He had taken Lorelei's iPad while she was arguing with our mother. He found messages with a contact named Caius. "She told me it was yours," he texted me, his pain radiating through the screen. "She looked me in the eye and swore it was mine. She was going to let me raise another man's child." It wasn't just a secret pregnancy. It was paternity fraud. The next morning, I woke up with a headache that felt like a hammer hitting my skull. My phone showed a missed call from my mother at 7:00 a.m. She had left a voicemail. I hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice was icy, filled with a venom I had never heard before. "You vindictive, jealous little girl," she hissed. "You couldn't stand to see your sister happy, could you? You had to destroy the family reputation in front of everyone." I sat on my kitchen floor, feeling like a child again. The guilt started to creep in. Had I been too harsh? But the voicemail continued. "We had it handled, Eloan. We were going to deal with it after the honeymoon. It wasn't your secret to tell. You had no right." I froze. I replayed that part. We had it handled. My mother knew. She had known about the pregnancy. She knew Lorelei was walking down the aisle with a lie in her belly, and she had helped her cover it up to secure Ansel's family money. The guilt evaporated instantly, replaced by a cold fury. I wasn't the villain. I was the only person in the family who wasn't a liar. They had plotted to trap Ansel, and they were angry that I had cut the trap open. By noon, my phone was buzzing for a completely different reason. A notification popped up from TikTok. A friend had sent me a link with the caption, "OMG, you are viral." I clicked it, confused. Someone at the wedding, probably one of the cousins, had recorded the speech. The video was titled, "Maid of Honor Goes Nuclear at Wedding." It already had 2 million views. I watched in horror. The video was shaky, but the audio was crisp. I watched myself stand up, grab the mic, and deliver the lines that destroyed the evening. I scrolled to the comments, terrified of what I would see. I expected the world to hate me. "She ate that up," one comment read. It had thousands of likes. "The sister was roasting her first. Deserved," said another. "Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear bridesmaid dresses. That sister is toxic." Half the internet was cheering for me. They called Lorelei the real villain and analyzed her cruel opening speech. But not everyone agreed. There were plenty of comments calling me a home wrecker and attention seeker. Then, a text from Lorelei popped up at the top of my screen. "You think this is funny. I'm suing you for defamation. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." 2 days later, a courier knocked on my door. He handed me a thick, heavy, cream-colored envelope. Inside was a formal legal letter. It was a cease and desist order and a threat of a lawsuit for emotional distress and defamation of character. My hands shook as I read the legal jargon. I didn't have money for a lawyer. I didn't know what to do. I called Cedric. Cedric was an old friend from college who was now a lawyer. He hated bullies more than I did. I met him at a coffee shop and slid the letter across the table. He read it, took a sip of his espresso, and let out a laugh. "She has no case, Eloan," he said, tossing the paper back. "Defamation requires the statement to be false. You stated facts. She is pregnant. She was hiding it. The truth is an absolute defense in court." He leaned in closer, his eyes twinkling. But here is the interesting part. I did a little digging on this Caius guy mentioned in the texts Ansel found. My heart raced, and He's not just some random guy, Cedric said, tapping his phone screen. He works at the same firm Lorelei was temping at, and I found his profile. Cedric turned his phone around to show me a picture. I stared at the image on the screen. Caius wasn't just a coworker. He was the regional director of the company Lorelei worked for. The photo showed him at a charity gala, wearing a tuxedo. He was smiling, his arm around a polished, elegant woman. 2 young children, a boy and a girl, stood in front of them. He was married, with a family. The plot thickens, Cedric whispered. This wasn't just a cheating scandal anymore. This was a career-ending, family-destroying catastrophe for Caius. If this got out, his reputation would be incinerated. Lorelei had been sleeping with her married boss, gotten pregnant, and tried to pin the baby on her rich fiancé to cover her tracks. My phone buzzed on the table. It was Lorelei again. The tone had changed completely. "Can we meet?" she texted. "Please, just 5 minutes, I need to explain." She wasn't threatening to sue anymore. She was begging. She must have realized that if I released the name of the father, the damage would spread far beyond her failed wedding. "Should I go?" I asked Cedric. He shrugged. "Hear her out, but record everything." I texted her back. "The hotel bar on 4th, 1 hour." The hotel bar was dimly lit, smelling of old leather and expensive whiskey. Lorelei arrived wearing oversized sunglasses and a beige trench coat, looking like a character from a bad spy movie. She sat down opposite me, her hands trembling around her clutch. She took off the glasses. Her eyes were puffy, red, and swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "You destroyed me," she hissed, keeping her voice low so the waiter wouldn't hear. "My life is over. Mom won't stop crying. Ansel blocked me on everything." I didn't flinch. I stirred my iced tea slowly. "You destroyed yourself, Lorelei. I just turned on the lights." She slammed her hand on the table. "Why did you have to say it? Why couldn't you just take the joke? I was going to tell him eventually, after the wedding." "The baby isn't his, Lorelei," I said coldly. She froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "How do you?" "Ansel told me, about Caius." Her face went white. She slumped back in her chair, defeated. Then she started to cry. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I needed to win. I needed to be better than you for once." "Is that why you hijacked my speech?" I asked. She wiped her nose with a napkin. "Yes, I had to. I knew you wrote something sappy and good. I couldn't let you be the star." She kept talking, the words spilling out of her like vomit. She admitted everything, her voice thick with self-pity. "It wasn't just about the speech," she sniffled. "Do you remember that promotion at the marketing firm last month, the one you turned down?" I nodded slowly. I had been offered a junior partner role, but declined it to focus on my writing career. "I wanted that job," Lorelei said bitterly. "I applied for it. They laughed at me. They said I didn't have your creative spark." I stared at her. This whole wedding, the speech, the cruelty, it was all rooted in professional jealousy. "So I decided to humiliate you," she confessed. "Caius was supposed to be at the wedding. He was on the guest list. I wanted him to see you looking pathetic so he would realize I was the better sister. I wanted to impress him." The twist hit me hard. She hijacked the speech to humiliate me in front of her boss, who was also her lover. "He promised to leave his wife for me," she whispered, staring at the table. "He said if I proved I was strong and dominant, we could be a power couple." It was pathetic. It was delusional. Her revenge wasn't accidental. It was a calculated strategy that blew up in her face. I left the hotel feeling drained. Lorelei was a mess of delusion and malice. I thought the story was over, but the internet works in mysterious ways. That evening, I received a direct message on Instagram. The account had no profile picture and a generic username. "I saw the video," the message read. "I am Odalys, Caius's wife." I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. The viral video had reached the one person who needed to see it most. "I have suspected for a long time," she continued. "But he denies everything. He calls me crazy and paranoid. Please, if you have proof, help me." I sat on my couch, wrestling with the decision. Lorelei was my sister. Ruining her wedding was one thing, but destroying a man's life and blowing up a family with children. Then I remembered the text Lorelei sent. He promised to leave his wife for me. Caius was playing both of them. He was a predator, manipulating Lorelei and lying to Odalise. And Odalise deserved the truth. I opened the folder of screenshots Ansel had sent me. I selected the ones that clearly showed Caius's name and the nature of their relationship. "I'm sorry," I typed, and I hit send. The explosion was immediate and nuclear. Odalise didn't just file for divorce, she leaked the affair to the press anonymously. She was smart. She knew Caius's position depended on his public image. Within 24 hours, the story was on the local gossip blogs and business news sites. Regional director caught in love triangle with viral bride. Caius was fired before the end of the week. The company issued a statement about violating code of conduct. He lost his high-powered position, his six-figure salary, and his reputation in a single afternoon. Lorelei called me that night. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "He blocked me," she wailed. "Caius blocked me. He said it's all my fault. I'm pregnant, alone. I have no job, no fiancé, and the father of my child hates me." She was desperate. She wanted me to fix it. She wanted me to tell the press it was a lie, to recount my statement. "I can't help you, Lorelei," I said into the phone. "You wanted a power couple. Now you have the power of the truth." I hung up. The next few days were a blur of media frenzy. Paparazzi actually camped outside Lorelai's apartment building. Pictures surfaced online of her crying on the sidewalk, looking disheveled, holding a box of her belongings. It was hard to watch. Despite everything, she was my blood. I felt a heavy knot of guilt in my stomach. Was this justice, or was it cruelty? I stayed inside my apartment, avoiding the windows. I turned off my phone, trying to escape the noise. I felt liberated from her shadow, but the cost was incredibly high. The family was fractured beyond repair. My parents weren't speaking to me. Lorelei was ruined. I spent the day cleaning my apartment, scrubbing floors until my hands were raw, trying to wash away the feeling of dirty laundry. Late that night, I turned my phone back on. There was a message from Ansel. "Can we meet?" he asked. "I have something of hers. I think you should see it." I hesitated. I didn't want to be involved anymore. I wanted to move on. But curiosity won. "Okay," I replied. "The coffee shop on 5th, tomorrow morning." Ansel looked 10 years older than he had at the wedding. He sat in the corner of the coffee shop, wearing a hoodie and jeans, hiding from the world. He had dark circles under his eyes and a scruffy beard. "I left her," he said simply as we sat down. "Officially, the lawyers are handling the annulment." "I'm sorry, Ansel," I said. "You didn't deserve any of this. You were the innocent party." "I thanked you," he said, looking me in the eye. "You saved me from a life of lies. If you hadn't spoken up, I would be raising another man's child right now, thinking it was mine." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. It was Lorelai's daily planner. "She left this behind when she moved her stuff out of my place," he said. "I looked through it. She was cheating even before the proposal, alone, the whole relationship. It was a setup." He pushed the book toward me across the table. "But the stuff about me isn't why I brought it. You need to see the notes on the back pages." I opened the book. The handwriting was familiar, sharp and jagged. I turned to the back section. The pages were filled with lists, but they weren't shopping lists or wedding plans. They were comparisons. On the left side of the page was the header, Elowen. On the right side, me. Elowen got the lead in the play. I need to join the drama club. Elowen got into State University. I have to apply to Ivy League. Elowen is the favorite. Dad always smiles more at her jokes. There were dates going back years. She had been documenting my life, obsessively tracking my successes and failures. "I'll beat her at something," was scrawled in red ink at the bottom of a page dated 3 years ago. "I need a richer husband. I need a bigger ring. I need to win." My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was pathology. She had built her entire life around the goal of defeating me. Her engagement, her career choices, her speeches, everything was a reaction to my existence. My phone buzzed. It was Fern. "You're trending again," the text read. "People are digging up old posts of Lorelei being mean to you. The internet has declared you the saint of patience." I closed the book. I felt a profound sadness. She had wasted her life chasing my shadow instead of living her own. The narrative online shifted. I wasn't just the girl who ruined a wedding anymore. I was the survivor of a toxic family dynamic. Blogs wrote articles about the honest maid of honor and the importance of setting boundaries with narcissists. I decided to use the platform. I made a short video, not mentioning Lorelei by name, but talking about truth and self-respect. "Sometimes," I told the camera, "love means telling the hard truth, even when your voice shakes. And sometimes you have to save yourself." The response was overwhelming. People shared their own stories of toxic siblings and family secrets. I felt a sense of purpose I had never felt before. But Lorelei wasn't done. 2 weeks after the wedding, she reappeared. She posted a YouTube video titled, "My Side of the Story." I clicked it, bracing myself. She sat on a couch, wearing no makeup, dressed in a simple gray sweater. She looked fragile and small. "I forgive my sister," she said softly into the camera, wiping a tear. "I know she's hurting. I know she's always been jealous of me. I forgive her for ruining my day." It was a masterclass in manipulation. She cried on cue. She talked about the stress of the wedding planning. She conveniently left out the pregnancy, the affair, and the DNA test. "I just want peace," she sobbed. "I want my family back. I want to be a mother." The public sympathy began to shift. Comments appeared saying, "Wow, she's so graceful," and Aloan was too harsh. "Look at how broken she is." Lorelei was winning them back with lies. She was rewriting history. Then Cedric called me. "She's monetizing it," he said, his voice hard. "She put ads on the video. She's making money off the pity party." "She's unbelievable," I said. "She's also careless," Cedric added. "In the background of her video, you can see a packed suitcase and a plane ticket on the table." So, I zoomed in. She's not grieving Aloan. She's planning a trip to Cabo with the money she's making from the video views. She's scamming her followers. I had a choice: let it go or end it for good. I chose the latter. I couldn't let her profit from the lies while destroying my reputation again. I didn't record a video. I just posted a single image to Twitter. It was a screenshot of the text message chain Ansel had sent me, the one where she admitted to the affair with Caius and the plan to trap Ansel. I captioned it, "Forgiveness requires truth. Here is hers." Then, in a second post, I uploaded the photo of her planner page. "I'll beat her at something. I need a richer husband." The internet exploded. The graceful victim narrative crumbled in seconds. The proof was undeniable. She wasn't a victim. She was a predator who got caught. Lorelei's follower count plummeted. The hate comments flooded her page. Within an hour, she deleted the YouTube video. Then she deleted her Instagram. Then her Twitter. She went dark. A week of silence followed. The dust began to settle. I went back to work, back to my writing, back to my quiet life. Then a letter arrived in my mailbox. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was handwritten on plain notebook paper. "Aloan, I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say it. I wanted to be you. I always wanted to be you. You were happy with so little, and I was miserable with so much. I hated that you were content. I'm going away for a while to have the baby. Mom is coming with me. Goodbye. Lorelei." I sat on my porch steps and cried, not out of anger, but out of grief for the sister I never really had. We were both victims of her insecurity. I wiped my eyes and saw the mailman had left a second envelope. It was thick and smelled of expensive perfume. The return address was Odalie's. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a photograph. It was a newborn baby girl, wrapped in a soft pink blanket. She was beautiful, with dark hair and bright eyes. There was a note attached, written in elegant cursive. Dear Aloan, thank you for helping me find the strength to leave. It has been hard, but I found peace. The truth hurts, but it heals. Chaos is gone. It is just me and my children now. I had this little one last week. She is strong and loud. I named her Aloan. With gratitude. Odalise. I stared at the photo, tears streaming down my face again. This time they were happy tears. A stranger had honored me in the most profound way possible. I felt a sense of closure wash over me, warm and final. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I looked at the screen. It was Lorelei calling. I watched the name flash on the screen. Lorelei, Lorelei, Lorelei. I thought about answering. I thought about the apology letter, but then I looked at the photo of the baby named Aloan. I had found my peace. I wasn't going to let chaos back in. I pressed the red button, decline. Months later, I stood at another microphone. This time, the room was warm, filled with genuine love and laughter. Fern was sitting at the head table, beaming in her white dress. I held my note cards, but my hands didn't shake. I looked out at the faces of friends who truly cared about me. Fern has been my rock, I said, looking at my best friend. She taught me that family isn't just blood. It's the people who stand by you when the world falls apart. It's the people who hand you the microphone when you have something to say. The guests clapped, a real thunderous applause that filled the room. There was no tension, no drama, no secrets, just joy. I raised my glass, feeling lighter than I had in years. To Fern, I said, and to the truth. Everyone laughed with me, not at me. I took a sip of champagne, savoring the taste of victory. My sister hijacked my words once. She tried to steal my voice to amplify her own lies. But in the end, I found my own voice, loud, clear, and unbreakable, and I never gave it back.